and I will be your moderator for these events. I'm Birawa Anuraga, a lecturer at the Faculty of Islamic Studies. And as moderator, I think I need to introduce our speaker, and I believe that all of you have known him already because he's a prolific scholar, especially in international relations, and uh, he got his PhD from Warwick University, and he got his master from Nottingham. And actually, I wanted to mention his publications, but when I check his Google Scholar, actually in 2023 alone, he published I think 10 publications. So I don't think I should mention his publication one by one. And one of his publications is his recently published book by Routledge. It is titled Indonesia's Global Diplomatic, oh no, Indonesia's Regional and Global Engagement. What's that?
Role theory.
Role Theory and State Transformation in Foreign Policy. So basically, he will discuss about the dynamics of foreign policies of Indonesia from the SBY's regime to Jokowi's regime. And I think this topic is really relevant today because we heard many events that are related to that must involve our foreign policy. For instance, the Palestine and Israel conflict. I think to some extent he will cover on that part as well. And indeed, our very own university is part of this foreign policy of, I think, of the Jokowi's regime. So yeah, I think he will discuss a lot on the dynamics and the factors shaping the foreign policy of Indonesia. And without further ado, I think I will give Pak Faisal Karim's time to discuss his book. How long should he present? 30 minutes or
20 minutes.
30 minutes? And I think we are going to have about 30 minutes for question and answer. Okay, Pak Faisal, time is yours.
Thank you so much, Pak Aga. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank you all for having me today. It's such a great honor for me to present. Just recently published book. It is published around July 2023, so it's not yet launched officially, basically. But thankfully, I have a time and also a opportunity to share with you what is actually the book is all about. Can you all see the screen? Okay, next. So basically, this book at the beginning is intended to focus more on theory. So it's not really a policy book. It's not really a contemporary book. The way how I wrote it at the beginning is basically try to focus more on the conceptual discussion, right? That is the very first idea that I have come in mind, because as a junior scholars back then, we thought that we want to create a book that is long lasting, right? You don't want to create a book within 4 to 5 years down the road. Nobody care about the book already. So that is the very idea. I want to have a book that are really into a conceptual discussion, focusing on the debates within the literature. But it turns out that kind of book is really difficult to pitch, right? Unless you have a good network. That is the reason why, as a PhD student or master student, go to conference, know a lot of editors, yeah, and then showcase that why your book or whatever research that you're doing is matters for a broader audience. But nevertheless, I went to Oxford University Press, and they told me that, well, this is a good book. You know the rest, right? However, it seems that this kind of book is not ready for our audience. Meaning, basically, no one reads this kind of a book. Why? It turns out that Oxford, Cambridge, they think that few Indonesians basically buy books. That's a really difficult, reality, yeah, is a very sad reality, because again, yeah, sometimes a publisher, they focus more also on the audience as well as the buyers of the books. That's the publisher, even though it's a academic publisher. Anyway, so I went to a lot of academic press, and then same story. Basically, they don't really think that this book, despite it's being great for them, right, it's not really uh, fit with their audience. But it turns out one of the publisher, yeah, with a series of international relations in Southeast Asia, they loved it. Oh, ano, tadi kan? They loved it, and then they told me that if only you can rewrite it in a way that focus more on Indonesia, we can publish it, right? So at the beginning, it is you know focusing on a big questions, big puzzle, focusing on the debate. Turns out to be, yeah, the book that hopefully lasts for 10 years, but probably less than that. Probably, it's like a 5 or 7 years down the road. But here we are. The book, basically, you can see the title, yeah, the subtitle called "Role Theory and State Transformation in Foreign Policy." This is basically the debate that I want to focusing on at the beginning. But now, instead of being the first or the main debate that I'm engaging in, it becomes only a subsection. So instead of addressing a big debate, the book becomes more focusing on Indonesia, regional, and the global engagement. So there are 8 uh, uh, chapters in it. Yeah. At the beginning, it is more heavy toward theory, but in the printed press, I mean, and the printed version, it is more into empirical issues. But I really want to focus on the theory itself in this discussion. So basically, the book discuss more about the very first puzzle that address or motivate, yeah, this research is basically how to count for the behavior of the so-called non-Western middle powers. So why is it important? Because apparently after 2008, especially when the US and Europe get the global financial crisis, there is a growing groups of countries known as the non-Western middle powers that usually back then were seen only as a regional powers, right? And the way how the behavior of these powers usually confined within the regional level. A lot of theories already created, a lot of conceptual notions have been addressed to explain these regional powers. But somehow there is a kind of limited gaps within the literature on how this used to be regional powers becoming a global powers, and what kind of a theory that can address the way how they behave. So this is kind of a uh, underpinning ideas motivate this research or this book. So the main questions asked in this book is basically, why do non-Western emerging middle powers seek to play a significant role? What role do they have? And then to what extent their role preferences driven by domestic or international factors? Next, to conceptualize these um, questions at the beginning, I wanted to compare between Indonesia and also other middle power, in this case, South Korea. But apparently, uh, the editor and also, the lack of documents as well as data only allows me to focus on Indonesia. But again, why Indonesia? Why Indonesia though? Obviously, first, growing international ambition and the puzzle. This is what make Indonesia is kind of a different with other emerging middle power, is that it doesn't have as much as domestic pressure compare with other emerging middle power when it comes to a greater role at the global level, in a sense that Indonesia focus more on its domestic level, and to some extent it has an institutionalized foreign policy that emphasize on the regional level. So this is kind of a puzzles that I want to address. Why, despite having a domestic political pressure and somehow having a history of focusing on the regional level, Indonesia finally seek to go into a global level. So this is kind of a of specific research questions that I want to address in this book.